cloud beneath you.
Thomas here with Much Props, going to give you another how-to video. Today I am once again dabbling in the world of Mortal Kombat. Now I took a look at my analytics, which is something that YouTube offers you to show you how your videos do across a bunch of different things. And my most watched videos, at least the top 4 on my channel, all over 200,000 views, are mask videos. So I thought, why not dive back into the world of Mortal Kombat? A couple of people have been suggesting that I try some other Mortal Kombat masks, and I picked the Tremor mask from Mortal Kombat X, or 10, or sure. So today we are going to build another Mortal Kombat half mask out of foam. Let's get to building. I figured I would do another video showing more of the process. Here is my go-to method for making a mask, the tried and true duct tape and foil method. You get the basic shape with foil, push it onto a mannequin head, and then tape it on. Once I get to the shape I need, I put another layer of foil over the entire thing, and then cover that with a layer of duct tape. With the top layer of foiled tape over, I draw my cut lines, reference marks, and label each piece. You only have to do one side if the mask is symmetrical. To get the other half of the pattern, you just flip it over to the back side and trace again. Once I get the pieces cut out, I transfer the duct tape pattern to a sheet of poster board, making it easier for you to see, and also making sure that I transcribe all the marks, as well as label any angle cuts and material thicknesses at this point. The pattern you see me create is then taped to a sheet of 8.5 inch by 11 inch copy paper and scanned into my computer to share with you lovely people. I also include a cover letter explaining my markings, color coding, and a list of materials you need for the build. Typically my patterns take an additional 2 hours or so, so generally when I release a video, it's the next day before I upload those. With pattern in hand, I can now trace into my materials of choice. In this case, I'm using some 6mm and 4mm EVA foam. You might be able to get away with using cardboard for this build as it doesn't have a lot of drastic curves. This is not always the case for most of the builds, but you're more than welcome to give it a go. Whatever you see me using in the video is typically my first go with whatever material or design I'm using at the time. I trace the pattern with a Sharpie, then with a sharp hobby knife, I make my cuts. I like to keep the parts I am working on close by so that I can reference them where the angle cuts and straight cuts are. A lot of people color code their actual cutted material, but I just do it by eye. For most of my templates, highlighted blue areas mean a 45-degree angle cut inward from the line, and the dotted red line on this pattern indicates where an overlay piece will be placed on a part. I applied contact cement to all my edges, let it set for a couple of minutes, and am now ready to assemble a mask. Using the registration marks, which look like capital U's along the edges, I line my corresponding bits together. The only real tricky part here in this pattern was the weird bottle opener looking nose piece. I had to stick part of it down and then lay down the part labeled overlay before tacking the rest of it. On the overlay 1, I thinned down the foam in the middle so that where the nose overlays it can sit a little easier. With a respirator on, I round over the edges with a rotary tool and clean up my seam lines with a sanding drum. Then I can make a second pass with a stone bit to smooth over all the rough edges the sanding drum left. I also went ahead and glued on the overlay 2 parts that look kind of like donuts on the side of the mask. I picked up this really cheap 2mm craft foam at the dollar store several years ago that has this nice texture on it. The pack came with like 5 or 6 different designs, and I liked this one most for this build. You may have seen me use this foam in other builds from time to time. All of them have like this really bright color and cool texture variations. I just trace the cutout area onto the foam as I hold it on the inside of the mask, and then add about 1/4 of an inch or so from that line to then super glue to the inside of my mask. Using the cutting wheel bits always makes me nervous, as I have had 2 explode on me and I have had it bite down into my material and run across my hand holding the prop. Work slowly and keep track of where your fingers are in relation to the cutting wheel of maiming. I wanted the cuts thicker than a hobby knife, and I didn't want to sit and breathe in burning foam, so this was the better option, be it a lot of the scars on my hands are from cutting wheels. The reference image that I looked at had dozens of these battle scars all over it, so I added tons. Make sure to wear a respirator and a face shield just in case the thing decides to explode on you or you don't want to breathe in the bits that are kicking off of the wheel. Two coats of Plastidip. The base coat of this paint job is just a dry brushing with some silver rub and buff across the outer surface. You load up the bristles on a cheap chip brush, dab most of it off, then hit the high points of the mask with the brush. It is a simple technique that really makes all those details pop out with very little effort. Tremor in Mortal Kombat is an earth element ninja that can cause small quakes to throw his opponents off balance or do some damage. Depending on the game models you look at, his setup kind of looks like Scorpion or Sub-Zero, but in the ones I looked at for MKX, the mask looks very dirty and worn out. So I started by adding some watered down acrylic washes of brown and black paint, then I sprinkled on some pigment sets of dirt colors to the wet surface to kind of add a little season of texture and let it seep into the recesses of the cuts. These pigment sets are meant for like model making sets. Last step is to add the straps for the mask. In most of the reference images, he's either wearing a balaclava or a hood, so I'm not 100% sure what the strapping situation is underneath there, and since I have an actual face with ears that will get in the way of a straight off the sides approach, I had to angle it just above the overlay 2 donuts. To get a good measure for the elastic banding, just hold the mask up to your face and fill where the edges of the mask meet your face. Then slightly stretch the banding over that point on your face and cut it. Then I like to sandwich the banding between the mask and a thin layer of EVA foam to lock it into place with super glue. And with that, we are done. I hope you enjoyed this Tremor mask build, which is getting me closer to 100 mask builds now on my channel.
And we are finished. Here is the end result. Overall, a very simple build, something you could easily knock out in a couple of hours. I think from start to finish it took me maybe 6, and that's making the template, recording it, painting, waiting for paint to dry, all that kind of stuff. Not too terribly complicated. I really like the way that those pigment sets worked and seeping into the cracks and crevices and really giving it that realistic feel of metal that has been aged. But yeah, maybe you will try and make one of these yourselves and impress your friends with your ability to pull something from a Mortal Kombat game and like make it look super mask-like. Yeah. Sometimes you just don't know. Maybe you'll get some.
Yay!
And inevitably, they're going to ask you, how'd you make that? You can give them one of these. Tell them, much props. With the angle of this, it's kind of easy to put on and take off, and peace out.
If you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and want to see more builds like this one, please join these awesome people listed here with me over on my Patreon to build a bigger, better, more creative community together.